So let's talk about some Pokemon controversies.
Yeah.
So to sum everything up, we've talked a little bit about some of this before, I think, but Pokemon Sword and Shield is coming very quickly in November, and it kind of feels like every time Game Freak and Nintendo say something about it, people just start up all over again. The short version of what like the major problems people are having with the game is that they're only going to include Pokemon in this particular region. So some of those Pokemon will be new to this generation, some of them will be holdovers from previous generations, but they are not going to be doing the National Pokedex, which in previous games gives you access to every single Pokemon from every single generation. Might not be able to catch them in that game, but you can port them in from somewhere else, and then you'll have everybody that you want. My initial reaction to all of that was like, who cares? Get over it. When I play a Pokemon game, I play it specifically for that new game. After talking to a lot of different people about how everybody feels, I feel like it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But more than anything, it kind of revealed to me, how different Pokemon is for different people and how we all sort of want different things out of the next game. So that's what I want to talk about real quick. Um, Starting with just, I guess, base level. What is your feeling about them not wanting to include the National Pokedex? The reason that they gave was just sort of mostly like a time kind of a thing. They release it when they want to release it, to include the animations, which everybody's really fixating on. They want to include. They don't really have time to do that for every single Pokemon. So, thoughts on that first?
I actually like it.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's a little like it's a lot to ask again for, like they are doing a lot with this game and they'd have to, redo a lot of things for a lot of old Pokemon
Mhm.
because of like the new animations. There's going to be the Dynamaxing. They'd have to build a new model for that, a new model for a lot of Pokemon that haven't seen, this new style artwork. So
Right.
in my opinion, I think it's a good idea, especially for time purposes, but also because it forces you to use new Pokemon. You don't gotta, log into the game and you have your same six Pokemon that you've had in the past, three generations. I think it's
Mhm.
a better idea to kind of force people to open up into to new possibilities.
Right. That's kind of like my, again, base level like feeling about it. The only sort of like caveat that I have heard that I think makes sense is about how it might like mess up competitive and breeding options, because if you want to do like competitive short sword and shield, you're not going to be able to use every single Pokemon, for as far as forever. So that's going to affect people on like an individual level. It's also going to affect how like tournaments can even set up, because they're not going to have access to everybody. Um, I don't know. I mean, you have like a little, maybe a little bit more experience with like fighting games in general than I do. I Part of me is like, man, that really sucks. Like if your main party isn't available, then you just got to redo your entire thing. But on the other hand, I feel like for the community, maybe that's a little more interesting because they're like limiting, the roster of fighters you basically have available. Like does that make sense? Like that kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's almost
I
like
agree.
I kind of feel like it's sort of like an opposite Smash Ultimate situation, where, well, I guess sort of every single time they've done Smash up until Ultimate, you have like the core characters are the same, and then some people came over, but some didn't. So if you were a Pichu main, then you kind of didn't have you had to get a new character up until between was it Melee? I guess was the first one that he's in. So
Hmm.
for the Brawl in the Wii U game, you had to find somebody else. Like is that kind of thing we should just tell people to adapt to? I guess is maybe what I'm getting at. If there's a question there.
I think No, I think it would be. I think again, I think it widens it up because I can only imagine competitive play getting boring after a certain amount of time using, seeing the same people use the same things over and over again because this is
Hmm.
what's always been the strongest. So, like, uh, mind you, I don't follow the competitive Pokemon battling scene, but say you have like Salamence, Charizard, and whatever else you have that's super strong, right? It's like you're gonna keep seeing those in every battle,
Right.
and this it forces them to use what's limited in the game. So like, I mean, there's only a few people that I can think of off the top of my head, but you're probably going to see more of those new starters in the competitive league. You're going to see, some of all that region specific because there's not going to be like not all of the extremely strong Pokemon that were back in the old generations are coming to the new one.
Right.
There's only a handful that are coming in.
Right.
So I think it's going to be more interesting for the competitive scene because people are going to get to see new stuff, new combos, kind of get a good feeling on what's a good party.
Mhm. Yeah, the sort of main thing that I know about Pokemon, like competitively, from this information is sort of like 2 generations out of date at this point from when I last was involved, is that there are sort of like categories where they will not allow you to use Pokemon that are used all the time because of the fact that they're overused, So they would take out, like I know for a while, like a really popular setup was to have a Starmie that knew Thunderbolt, Psychic, Surf, and what's the other move? Ice Beam, I think was the other one. Because Starmie's really fast, has really high special attack stat, and it would just sort of wipe the floor with most things. But then there's categories of play that would not allow you to use that because everybody's using that, and then you're just going to have everybody using the exact same party every single time.
Right.
So maybe if this game doesn't even have a Starmie in it, then that takes that out of the equation, and opens up different possibilities. Um,
Exactly. Like everybody can have their own separate team, and you're not going to see like similar parties on either side. You'll
mhm,
have different things.
right. And it also could potentially, I guess, sort of the opposite of that would be saying that, maybe they only end up including Pokemon in this game that are part of the overused category, and then they got to figure out um, how to address for that. But I think that
Right.
the community is adaptive, and at the same time, I also kind of feel like, despite the fact that like Nintendo puts on Pokemon tournaments as like part of official events and things like that, like Pokemon is such like a wildly unbalanced game, that like it's not really designed for like true competitive play. So I think it's like really crazy and really impressive that people bother making all these rules and setups and things to do it in the first place. But like because of that is also sort of why I feel like if people like battling Pokemon that much, they're gonna figure out a way to do it, with whatever they're given. You know,
Right.
I would just hope that they're able to think like, right, how can I problem solve basically. I can't if my breeding options are now limited. I can't breed these two Pokemon together to give my other Pokemon this special move that I wanted to give it. So what's my new strategy basically.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting. um the other thing at the risk of you know bringing up like the ire of the internet, I guess. We talked briefly a little bit beforehand about how I wonder about like the place that like Pokemon occupies in like gaming culture because of the fact that it seems to be so much of what everybody's saying here is like Game Freak messed up for the fans. They need to do what the fans want. People are like basically demanding give us the National Dex or we riot basically. What I find interesting about that is that like I've talked to multiple people that have flat out told me they think Game Freak is lying when they say that they have reasons for not including every Pokemon. They think that the reason is just they're lazy and don't feel like doing it, which to me is absurd. It's like even if the reason is that they didn't have enough time, like that's still a reason. It might not be a good one, but it's still a reason. But like assuming for a second that maybe Game Freak decided, what, we don't want to do that this time because new generation on a new console, we want to just focus on something new. I There's a part of me that wonders like, well, shouldn't we just let them do that? We have these conversations all the time about letting the developers do what they want. And I mentioned to you about how I just keep thinking about the huge debate that happened months ago when Sekiro Shadows Die Twice came out, and all the think pieces, like happens every single time a Souls game came out talking about whether or not there should be an easy mode in those games. And like the number one response that I kept seeing from people that were anti easy mode was just let the developers make the game they want to make, you know? And in this case, it's like, well, what if Game Freak just wants to make this kind of game? Shouldn't they be allowed to do that? And shouldn't we, like, and if it sucks because you don't have all the Pokemon, then we'll find that out when it comes out, but shouldn't we maybe save some of that ire until we've actually played the thing?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, again, I'm all for it. I already kind of stated that I think it's a good idea for multiple reasons, but I also think that, if Game Freak just continues listening to what people want, we're just going to keep getting the same thing over and over. And they're going to want to do something creative eventually. And if this is their way of doing it by not, bringing the National Dex in for whatever reason they have, them, let them do that, because it could lead to something even better that we don't even know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they have this, like the new Dynamax and Gigantamax modes, which, again, some people have said, oh, well, that's nothing because that's just scaling the character model. But also, maybe it's just Game Freak wanting to experiment with new Pokemon forms, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you also see all the Pokemon running around the field all the time. They have that whole thing they also introduced, like, raids for the first time, which is its
Yeah.
own new mechanic that we've never seen before. And then along with that is the whole, it's called the wild area, I think is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Which is just the region where all the Pokemon are walking around. Uh, I guess sort of, again, talking about how Pokemon occupies a kind of weird space. What you said about if they just listen to the fans, we're going to get the same game every single time. You know, it's kind of like you see a lot of like reviews and things coming out for Pokemon games saying like, well, this is just the last Pokemon game with new Pokemon in it. And when Game Freak does new things, they do new things very slowly. They iterate very slowly. So it's almost like fans in a way are just asking, well, we just want the old Pokemon game over and over and over and over and over again. So how do you please everybody? You know what I mean? That's,
Right.
to me, is again another argument for, well, let them make the game that they want, and then we'll judge it when we can judge it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, which I guess brings up to the end of thinking about like what is Pokemon anymore? Like what makes a Pokemon game? Obviously, like we've discussed here, there's the competitive people, there's the collector people, and then there's the people that it sounds like a sort of just, I guess, both of us, that you just want to play the game to play the game and see what's new, and who the new designs are, basically.
Yeah. I would I'm pretty excited about the new mechanics. It seems like it's going to add a lot of interesting things to the game. So, I
What do
mean,
you think
at
they
the
would
end of
have
the day,
to?
Pokemon is good.
I was just gonna say, like, it sounded like maybe you're about to say something like this, but I was gonna say, what what do you think that they would have to do, like, for you to be like, thumbs up, Game Freak? This was what I wanted from Sword and Shield.
Um, it's a lot to ask. Um, I don't know. I like the idea that you can see Pokemon still. It looks like they added wild encounters back, so you kind of get a mix of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super pleased with the rating idea because I love doing that in Pokemon Go.
Right.
Um, I mean, the animations is something that I've been like super excited for. Like even with Let's Go, like they kind of stepped it up with animation. So I would hope that they would make some really cool ones, because the last time I remember seeing like any kind of cool ones were Pokemon Stadium. And I love that game. So if they would kind of make a lot of the animations like similar to that, but in like a new perspective, that would be cool. And I'm hoping for a good story, because I mean, I didn't even make it through I didn't even make it through Suns. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping for something that's compelling and not tutorialized.
Right. I mean, that's sort of the main thing for me, you know. It's almost like,
Yeah,
you know, it didn't matter how many of the 700 Pokemon at the time were in that game because I didn't enjoy playing through it, you know. Um,
exactly.
I mean, for me, it's like new Pokemon designs, a new region just to explore, you know, and a story slash gym battles, you know, to fight in, are like sort of the main things that I want, you know, and maybe that's like pretty basic, you know, but I guess from my perspective, that's just the kind of thing that doesn't need every single Pokemon design in it, you know. Um, I also think that I like being surprised sometimes by the cool stuff that Game Freak will throw in there, you know, because like
Yeah.
there's some really awesome stuff at the end of Let's Go that I feel like nobody ever talks about, and I wonder if anybody even really. I know you actually haven't even gotten to the end of that yet, though. Um, there's just like really cool stuff that you can do at the end of that game, like that I didn't know was a thing. I'm kind of happy I didn't know it was a thing because it was like really cool surprises to encounter. But I feel like I hear like a lot of negative things about that game, and nobody really focuses on like those kinds of actual. This was Game Freak innovating in some kind of fun way, kinds of things. You
Yeah,
know?
I would like more post game stuff. I haven't finished Let's Go yet because I've been playing various other things lately. But once I start playing it again, I plan on doing all that extra stuff because like that's one thing. Like if you beat the Elite Four and there's nothing to do afterwards, that's not exactly fun because then you just got to try to level Pokemon and then beat the Elite
Right.
Four with other ones. I would prefer to have more post game activities like stuff that I can either explore or capture new stuff or
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah, well, and they've been trying a lot of different things the last couple of generations. Like Ultra Sun, I know had like a whole extra episode at the end of it. I know Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire had a whole like epilogue episode that you could do afterwards. Um,
Yeah,
again, I never even played Ultra Sun. I never played the post game of Sun, the first one, because again, it was just like at that point, I was like, all right, I'm done with the game. It wasn't enjoyable anymore, you know. So what I like about the post game stuff of Let's Go, again, like without spoiling what it actually is that you're given a lot of freedom to decide how you want to continue in that world, you know? So I would hope that by revisiting the original generation and how it was kind of stripped back compared to the over tutorialization of Sun, that Game Freak maybe learned a little bit about how to handle that better. And with this new region, and especially with this wild area that they're trying to promote exploration in, that they can, you know, do something like that for me again because I like that a lot. And it actually made me want to finish the Pokedex for the first time in years,
yeah,
which is a good feeling. So yeah, I mean, I guess we're gonna, you know, just hear more as we hear more until the game's
yeah. Kind of
whatever. And
revisit it until it comes out, and then once we play a lot of it, we'll kind of make decisions there.
mhm,
Or if we hear new stuff, I'm still waiting on starters evolutions. So
yeah, yeah, that's a big one for me too because I got to decide who I want to have.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I mean, that's sort of the other thing, and I guess maybe this will be the last point is that they've sort of been drip feeding information, you know. So there's so much about the game that we still don't know yet. There's been a lot
Yeah,
of
they're
rumors.
just trying to build up hype.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rumors about different kinds of modes that are supposedly in the game. So I guess like I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but if I could politely remind people to sort of check your expectations until you know more about the thing or until you're able to get it in your hands, um, or until even if you don't want to be like, well, I don't want to buy it if blah 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 whatever. Wait until somebody has it in their hands. You know, we're going to be playing the game. Anybody listening to this who maybe has reservations will in November hear what we think about it. So, you know, we can talk about it then too. Um, if you like
We will
Pokemon,
talk about it then.
we'll be talking a lot about it, I'm sure. But if you
Yeah,
like Pokemon, just, you know, stay positive about the fact that there's new Pokemon. You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to be happy
And a
with
new
every single
region.
thing that they give you. You know, but let's try
New
to stay positive.
region, new Pokemon. Just stay positive.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I think that's probably going to wrap this one up. Any closing thoughts?
Get Ultimate Alliance
Okay.
and hold
I will not have
thoughts
time.
on, huh?
That I will not have time
Yeah.
because
Um,
by the time people
and
hear
then
this, I will probably be playing Fire Emblem Three Houses.
it's true. Um, I mean, if we get together, we'll play it. I'm
Right.
sure.
For sure. Yeah.
So, and then the other thought is just like you said, stay positive about Pokemon. I think it holds a lot of potential, and I think people aren't giving credit to Game Freak where they deserve it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I think
So
stay
let's wrap this
positive
one up.
is maybe a good thing to keep in mind in general, especially about gaming, because we can be very cynical about
Yeah.
upcoming things. When we don't know what they are. So
Yeah.
stay positive, stay excited, stay happy.